We work with all disabilities. I have not turned down an individual yet in the 4 years I've been there because they had a disability or behavior that we could not accommodate or have them flourish.
I have a question.
Yes, Jody, thank you.
Are you looking forward to this year?
Improvements? Oh, my board's going to kill me. Actually, we're really not looking for a ton. We've done a lot of improvements over the last several years. And again, all that information is in the stuff that we provided, so I'm not going to run down the list. We have some minor improvements that we want to do, fix our playground up a little bit. We want to eventually construct a barn so that we can have some farm animals and some critters out there so our campers can not only grow some of their own food in the raised beds that Nancy helped us build, but also have some critters to play with and little farm therapy for them. But really, that's about it. We've done a ton of improvements over the last several years, and I think it's time for me to take a break, and my board's probably going to be pretty happy about that.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you, Ryan. Glad that you liked camp and did a great job.
You can leave it. I'm not going to move.
You were talking about having campers who are in their 80s, and we have chicks that are in their 80s that come out and raise money for us. We also have chicks that are really young. In fact, I want to mention one of our chicks for charity. She's 6 years old. Her name is Abby Meyer, and she raised $15 from donations at her lemonade stand during a garage sale recently. So they're all nice job. This is going to be hard, I can tell already. Our second presentation today is Great Lakes Center for Autism and Katina Harding, along with Mary Walters, and I believe Melissa Bates will not be present. Right. Okay.
Are we stopping?
Hi there, I'm Katina Harding. I'm with the Great Lakes Center for Autism, and I first want to take the opportunity to say thank you very much for giving us time to share with you our plan for the Autism Support Navigator program. First off, what is autism? And looking around the room, I'm sure that most of you have probably come in contact with some family that has been affected by autism. I can give you some facts for those of you that aren't familiar with it. It is a neurobiological development disorder that usually that we usually see within the first 3 years of life. It is a spectrum disorder, which means that it affects every individual differently. It can be mild, moderate, or severe. Nationally, autism is an economic, social, and health crisis, and without adequate support, it can devastate a family. But I think the best way for you to really get an understanding of what autism is and how it can affect families is to hear it from the parents.
You can't really take a day off of autism. Autism never took a day off on me.
She always has to have my attention, and it's exhausting. He doesn't speak much at all.
Hi. He's never spoken a single word.
Everything about Daniel's life that seems normal for a typical kid, like going out to dinner or going to a park, all that for us is work.
Oh, good.
A little bit more. I'm almost done. I still hope I won't be changing diapers when he's 6 1/2.
I didn't choose to do this. I'm not a therapist. I was drafted. I have an autistic child.
Everything I do is about autism. I have to stay home with him because I have to facilitate the therapist, going here, going there, the medication, the constant medical appointments.
The parents of autistic children often stick together, and we have to.
Because they understand if your kid is having a meltdown and there's no judgment, it's just that's how it is. They have no idea how easy it is compared to this. Your heart is breaking all day long. You think about his future and all the pain he's in, and I don't think they can understand that.
And the parents who were going out for bagels together and are like, oh, do you want to come for a bagel? And I think, yes, in another life, I'd love to come for a bagel. But right now, I have to write down what he's doing so we can go home and work on that. And then I have to take the other two to therapy. So, no, I can't go for a bagel.
The Great Lakes Center for Autism was founded by a local couple, Bob and Susie Tyner, who has an adult son with autism. 50 years ago, when he was diagnosed, they found it very difficult to find any kind of support and to even get an accurate diagnosis. In 2004, they founded the GLCA because after looking around the community, they saw that unfortunately not a lot had changed. It was still difficult to get a diagnosis. Adequate services were not available to most families. Insurance companies still didn't fund most of what was needed for these services, and unfortunately families still felt isolated. Having gone through it themselves, they know that autism affects families as a whole, and so the Tyners never wanted another family to go through what they went through.
One of these schools.
Take your Matthias off your hands. We love you.
Say bye. Bye. It just took a lot of the naturalness, the joy of having a baby out of the equation because we were always filled with fear. Bye. Bye.
When you have a child with autism, I think the rate for divorce is like 80%. I didn't give that marriage what I could have because I had nothing left to give.
It's very hard to manage the emotional issues, the financial issues, which are huge.
We had to borrow money from my parents. We had to borrow money from my sister. The $50,000 that we're in debt is all about the autism.
What I spend on the medical activities that the insurance companies are not paying for, it's a large number.
We had a big leak in the living room that was coming down in like a bucket. It's been over 2 years, and those holes are still there because we don't have any money to fix that.
We keep saying that we're just sending, Daniel to Harvard over and over again every year for the rest of his life.
So you just keep borrowing, and you just keep trying, and you just keep being disappointed, and you just keep going broke.
Since we started in 2004, we've worked to identify gaps in services and worked to fill those gaps. We started out by creating, distributing, and disseminating a community and provider assessment. We assisted in the creation and the establishment of the University of Toledo Center for Excellence in Autism. We created a community awareness and major annual fundraising campaign to Give Autism the Boot. And then just most recently, we brought together various organizations, including ProMedica, Mercy Health Partners, Harbor, and the University of Toledo, along with other smaller organizations, to lead and create the Autism Collaborative. These groups, or this group of organizations, will strategize how together we can serve families within the community. So what's next? What would Chicks for Charity do for us? We would essentially
There are
establish
moments
the Autism
in your
Support
life
Navigator
when you
program.
think about what defines you. Mine was the moment when the doctor said autism.
And I can remember the tears in her eyes. And, you can think, well, he'd be like this for the rest of his life. Is there anything that I can do? Will there ever be enough that I can do to help him?
What do you do next? There is no cure. There is no game plan. No one tells you what to do.
I just see this beautiful, sweet boy that just wants to be understood.
You could just tell by his eyes. He so desperately wants to communicate with you.
You really wonder when you see them sitting in a chair by themselves. Are they happy? Are they sad? It's hard to figure out what's going on up there.
Does she know how much we love her? It would break my heart to think she didn't understand that.
So while the Autism Collaborative will continue to move forward and create programs and services for children, adolescents, and adults for autism, we realize that what we first need to do is fill this critical void of providing support for our families, and that's what the Autism Navigator program will do. It would provide an initial contact upon diagnosis for families. It will provide service and treatment options, ongoing support and advocacy, and help that they need to navigate their way through the diagnosis, treatment, and financial process. Most importantly, it would establish a program that does not currently exist in Northwest Ohio. Right now, parents are handed a devastating diagnosis, and then they're left to themselves to figure out what treatment options are available, to access the resources, and then try to find a network of support in a world where, unfortunately, most still don't understand what autism is. So I want to say thank you very much for this time, and before I hand it over to Mary Walters, again, I just want to say thank you, and you guys have a really tough decision. You've got two other great, worthy organizations, but I want to leave you with one last clip, because if nothing else, I hope that you take away today a little bit better understanding of what our families go through with autism.
to just keep your child quiet? No.
People have no idea what it's like to have a child with autism.
We're just judged more harshly and more constantly, and expected to do things that no human being should be expected to do.
Why is he hitting himself?
It's always heartbreaking. When Jody was on the swings and crying, the other moms were sort of looking and wondering why this 8.5-year-old girl was screaming and carrying on because she didn't want to get on a swing.
Have a little bit more understanding, a little bit more compassion, and show that to your children as well.
There's one more you can put up there. Yeah. In the front row.
Hi everyone, thanks for inviting us today, and thanks for taking a look at these three organizations. I'll be brief. I am a parent of 3 children with autism and a 4th child who just tells me I'm trying to make him autistic. Maybe. I just want to give you just a little brief overview of what I've seen through my lifetime. My oldest child is 19. My daughter Maria is 19. I have a son Sam who's 18 with autism and a son Jack who's 15 with autism. When Maria was diagnosed, I was told by the doctors I'd never have another child with autism, not to worry. How things change. Back then, 1 in 10,000 people were diagnosed with autism. Today, it's 1 in 110 diagnosed with autism. Great Lakes Center for Autism stepped in 2004 to help out in the community, and they did it in a research-based way. I'm the director of the Autism Model School. We started in 1998. We are research-based as well. We follow the guidelines of the National Academy of Sciences, and we provide excellent education as determined by the Ohio Department of Education. What the Great Lakes Center has done for my family is that they've tied together the pieces. They've provided some startup funding for some new organizations. And so now my daughter, Maria, who's 19, actually holds down a job at Myrtle Flower Shop, where they have been coached to work with her closely and to deal with her issues. My son Sam, who's a wild man, pretty much out of control, very severely affected with autism, he has transportation now because of the Great Lakes Center for Autism to work at a job at the Toledo Zoo where he can wipe down the aquarium walls and get out into the community. And my son Jack, who is my highest functioning child with autism, now has a dog as a friend. Before he had no friends at all, but he has a trained assistance dog through Agility Angels, which the Great Lakes Center for Autism has funded. One of the most important pieces is that they do a community needs assessment on a regular basis, and they tie together all the information so that they can support the missing pieces in this huge area of autism that continues to grow at the rate of 12 to 15% increase in incidence yearly. The money has been well spent, and I think the correct number is that over 5,000 people with autism in Northwest Ohio and Southeast Michigan were touched by the help that the Great Lakes Center for Autism gave them last year. So thanks everybody for thinking about us, and good luck with your decisions.
Does anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask? You have about 3 minutes if anybody would like to.
Well, absolutely. We would put it together as a collaborative. The GLCA kind of spearheads all of that, but we work together with all of our partners to get it up and running. But then we would also work to create the strategic plan so that it would be sustainable. We recognize the need, and it's been missing for so long that we know we have to fill it. And so it can't happen and then go away. That would be even more devastating. Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So I want to tell you about another fundraiser that has gone on for 4 years to help us raise money for wonderful organizations. And Andrea DeWood is here today, and she has a party with her daughter every year.